Quick to the quarry!
Quite!
We must go!
Quick to the quarry.
What's up, everybody? I'm Mike.
I don't know, it's just funny. Quick to the quarry!
It's like a nice vocal.
I don't know. I don't know where the nearest quarry to us is. Nonetheless, hi everybody. I'm Nick.
I'm Mike.
We're
We
the
are
Brothers Burr.
Yes, and we are talking about Q games. So I was trying to
Yes.
think of as many Q games, and I got Quick to the Quarry, which was a good start, and then I floundered.
That was it.
Immediately.
Yeah, we're continuing our alphabet series where we talk about 10 games from every letter of the alphabet, or usually every letter of the alphabet. We actually thought we were going to have to combine Q with R because we've kind of smashed, and as we get later in the alphabet, we're going to have to do some more.
A couple weird ones coming.
But we're like, you know what? There's actually weirdly a lot of games that start with Q that are really good. I think it's because it's a weird letter. People are like, no, I'm going to call it this, but with a Q.
I think it's smart, yeah.
And so, nonetheless, here are 10 games that start with Q.
So number 10 is Qwixx. This is a kind of classic roll and write game that I actually play a ton on my phone, like on planes and things, where you're gonna be rolling out these different colored dice along with 2 white dice, and you have basically 4 different tracks, each pertaining to the 4 colors of dice. One track goes, or 2 of the tracks go up 2 to 12, the other 2 go 12 to 2, and you are working on these tracks effectively trying to cross off as many as you possibly can on each, the more the better, so as many of the blues and greens as possible. However, you can only cross off a number to the right of something, the rightmost thing that you've crossed off before. You can jump in anywhere, but if I have something that's descending from 12 to 6 and I put in a 9 to start, 10, 11, and 12 are now gone. I can only keep going down from there. So you're kind of trying to work with the dice as they are rolled. You don't want to have too many missed throws because that can end the game early and lose you points. But you're kind of, needing to progress as much as possible. If you get 5 or more from any one track and then either get the 12 or the 2, so basically the end of the track, you can also lock or unlock the kind of end of the track, which blocks anyone else from working on that track. It's another way you can time out the game. The more at the end of the game spaces on each track you've done, the more points you'll get for that track. So it's super duper simple, very accessible, kind of family weight. Again, I play it on my phone a lot when I'm like on planes and things. And it's just one of those ones that's like kind of themeless and just a fun puzzle each time you roll the dice, wondering like, what should I do? What's the best way? What lanes should I invest in the most?
Our number 9 is going to be a game called Quoridor. Quoridor is a game by Gigamic, and they create a lot of games, start with the letter Q. We'll talk about another one called Qawale a little bit later. There's a whole bunch of them. This is actually a new version that just came out at Gen Con that we picked up. This is a Quoridor Pac-Man game, so this is actually Pac-Man, but in the Quoridor world. I'll explain. So basically, Quoridor is a really great little abstract game. All these kind of cube-based games are really nice wood abstract games. And this is a game where you have a little pawn. It's 2 to 4 player, but a lot of people play it 2 player. And you're basically trying to get your pawn from the first row on your side to the first row on your opponent's side. That's how you'll win. On your turn, you can do one of 2 things. You can either move your pawn orthogonally 1 space, so forward, to the side, back, something like that. Or you can take one of your, I think, 10 fences and you can place it out on the board. And the fence will span across 2 different spaces, and you're basically going to use that to block your opponent. And you're basically trying to make them kind of have to go around and stuff, but they're also blocking you. And you're basically either placing a fence or moving your piece. That's literally all you can do. The first person to get to the other person's first row wins the game. This, we haven't played this one yet. We just don't have the original version, which is why I'm showing this one. But this kind of makes it Pac-Man-y, because again, in the game, you are moving around, but you're putting out these fences, and it ends up looking kind of like a Pac-Man board. So in this one player is playing Pac-Man, and then the other people are playing the ghosts, and you can play up to 5 players, because each player can play a different ghost, basically. So I'm not entirely sure exactly how this one plays, but nonetheless, I'm really excited about this one, because Quoridor is just a really fun game. And adding Pac-Man to it just sounds like a good time. And so I'm really, really excited for that one.
Number 8 is Queendomino. This is a follow-up to the original Kingdomino, which is using all the mechanisms from Kingdomino, where you're building out, your little kingdom with these tiles matching land types and stuff. But it adds in extra things to deal with. There's a dragon going around blasting things away. There's tiles you can put onto stuff and villagers and powers and things you can get. So it's kind of, very much King Domino plus. If you like kind of King Domino and you want that core mechanism of kind of drafting tiles and placing tiles and add in different ways to score and put little knights out in places, it gives you more things to munch on from a gameplay perspective. So that's something that we were really excited for when it first came out. I think maybe in 2017, or it was early on in our board gaming kind of adventure, King Domino being one of those really early games. So we were super excited when Queendomino came out because it added kind of more. It's more of a gamer's game versus King Domino being so kind of family weight while not being like an overwhelming game. So this is one that we really enjoy, and I think you would too if you like King Domino, what it does, and want just a little bit more.
Number 7 is Queenz, to be or not to be, and B-E-E, because it's bees. Bee stuff. This is around that time, around Honey Buzz, where there's a whole bunch of bee games all at once, and this was one of them. But this one's actually really, really fun. I like this one a lot. And basically in this case, you're gonna be gathering orchids and you're gonna be putting them into fields, trying to make groups of the same color of orchids to put down a beehive and then gather honey, basically. And so there is a central board with all these orchids, and there's a gardener that's kind of going around the edge of the board. And on your turn, wherever the gardener is, you can choose 1, 2, or 3 orchids in that row. If you choose only one, that orchid can have a bee on it. If you're choosing more than one, it can't have any bees. And if you choose 3, you have to choose 3 different colors. And you'll kind of put them on your little central board, and then you can essentially collect those and turn those in, or actually not turn them in, but you can basically put them out onto fields, which are gonna be polyomino tiles. And you're trying to make, again, groups of white orchids, groups of pink orchids, yellow, things like that. And then you can choose to also put out beehives into your fields, and then you're essentially gonna score honey for the size of your orchids, and then also having a lot of bees around that. And that's kind of the game, but it's interesting because as the gardeners moving around, things are getting taken, so you're kind of having to deal with what you have. The board does not automatically refill with orchids. It only refills if the gardener comes across a completely empty row. So there's like dwindling stuff, and then the board gets reseeded, and it's just really, really fun. And then I really like the kind of like polyomino style of it, where you're putting these things out, trying to make these kind of like fields work and trying to move things together, because every time you kind of add on to your fields, you then can score those things, those orchids again with those beehives. It's just fun. I just really enjoy it. It's kind of like, just kind of casual. It's not super, super heavy, but there's enough thinking, enough choices going on that it makes it really, really nice. And I like bees as a theme. I think bees are cool. Save the bees, all that kind of stuff. And I think this is a good one. This one also kind of like, I feel like came out and then immediately went away, and like no one talks about it and no one's ever played it. And so give it a shot if you ever come across it. I think it's a good time.
Number 6 is Qawale. This is a very abstract 1v1 game where you are trying to get 4 of your little stones in a row, kind of Connect 4 style. And you're using Mancala style mechanisms here to move your pieces around the board. There's a 4x4 board where you're gonna have some kind of neutral color stones, your opponent's and your own. Every turn you're gonna add one of your stones to a stack, and then pick up the entire stack and move orthogonally from place to place, dropping off 1 stone at a time until you've placed all of your stones out. So you're trying to pick up and kind of strategically drop things off in such a way that you can hopefully make a line of your own things. If your opponents are getting close, I might want to put stones, either neutral or my own, in a ways that cover up some of their pieces, so now they don't have quite as clear of a path to that kind of row of 4. Again, you can pick up your own stones and things. You might have something where the top and the third, spot, or the second spot are yours. So you can strategically place it so that on the second one you drop yours, you drop an opponent's, you drop yours again, and now you've made your diagonal line or whatever it is. I really enjoy Mancala, especially when it's not just in a loop or a circle of some kind. In this one, you can go up and left and up and down and stuff, and work your way around to try to do it. So it's just an interesting brain puzzle every time. It's got great kind of look and appeal. All these games in this kind of queue line, you'll see other ones use like wooden bits and stuff like that. They're very satisfying.
Number 5 is gonna be Quirky Surrogates, beep, gosh darn, boop. Quirky Circuits is a cooperative programming game where you are all playing together as one little robot, and there are a couple different kinds of robot. There's like a little cleaning Roomba kind of robot. There's like a sushi chef robot, this like archaeologist dog robot, and then this cute little bee one. And basically there's this kind of spiral bound book that has a scenario for one of those robots, for like the Roomba robot. And basically you are gonna be trying to fulfill the objective of that page, which the Roomba one is going to be collecting all these like little dust bunnies. And you do that through programming. So you have these programming cards, which essentially you're going to have going forward, going backwards, turning, that kind of stuff. You're like, all those things. And you're going to be playing them out face down, but you can't talk while you're doing it. And so you're all working together. You're all playing these cards face down into this kind of command row that will get, essentially, that will, what's the word I'm trying to think of? Resolve, we'll say. I couldn't think of the right word. That will resolve all in order, but you can't talk. You can't talk about what you have, and you're just kind of putting stuff down and being like, okay, we kind of talked about beforehand that we want to get to this side of the board to collect these dust bunnies, so I'm going to put one out, and on the back of the cards, you can see basically that this is either a turn card or a move card, but you don't know what, and so you're kind of doing that mind meld. You're like, okay, I think Mike put down a move forward 2, so I'm going to put down a turn left. But then as you reveal them, it turns out Mike only did a move forward 1, and now you're on a whole other part of the board that you weren't expecting. It's really, really fun. It's just really, really good. And then on top of that, all 4 robots work totally differently. Like the bee robot, you're out there kind of trying to like water plants and stuff, but the bee is flying because it's a bee, right? And so it's one of those things where the bee will drift. So if you move, like say to the right, you'll actually drift 1 extra spot. And so that's something that you have to think about. The sushi chef is just in the middle of a big like kind of conveyor belt sushi board, and they're doing like making all this kind of sushi stuff, and they can't move at all. They can only turn. It's only turn and essentially lifting things up and down. So they all play completely differently, and there's like a whole bunch of scenarios for each one that get harder and harder. I think this game is so much fun. It's really, really great. They also came out with like a slightly like easier family version, which has like a snowboarding penguin in it. It's really great. But nonetheless, Quirky Circus is awesome.
Next up is QE. This is an auction bidding game where you are all representing a nation. And since you have the ability as a government to print money, there are no limits to the amount that you could bid on for these certain types of industries and things as you try to cross off, kind of do set collection stuff on your player board. So again, what's really fun about this is if there's an item that comes for sale, it's a certain kind of industry based on, from a certain kind of country, and it might be something that's really advantageous for you to get, you can literally bid whatever amount of money makes sense to you. That could be $5, it could be $50 million, it could be $5 trillion. Doesn't matter, it's your money, that you're printing, so you can put in whatever you want. The big catch is at the end of the game, whoever has spent the most money on their winning bids gets eliminated from the game. Basically, you just crash your economy. It doesn't quite work out for you. So you want to make sure that you're spending money wisely. You want to invest in these different industries and things, because again, there's set collection. If you get, really kind of dominate an industry, it's going to be more beneficial for you. However, how and when and where do I make that big push to invest, where I throw out a number that I think no one is going to beat, and try to put that out there to collect that thing? Is it going to be worth it to me? But am I rolling the dice thinking that I've actually spent a lot of money on these 4 or 5 things that I've gotten, and I'm not sure anyone else has really, because the market goes up and down. Again, you can just bid $5, and if everyone else bids nothing, or 1 or 2 or 3, you could potentially win something for $5. Probably not going to happen, but it can get really kind of wild. So those are fun things to kind of play with as you try to collect all these kind of winning bids to fill out your player sheet as effectively as possible.
You knew we had to have some Quacks of Quedlinburg on there, and boop, there it is, with the Geek of Bits, of course. Check it out at the Geek store. They sell out immediately all the time. It's great. But nonetheless, I love the Quacks of Quedlinburg. The Quacks of Quedlinburg is a push your luck game where you are trying to build potions, and you're putting them in your big old cauldron and stirring with a big old spoon, and sometimes it explodes. you know, it's just part of the trade. And so basically you're gonna have these ingredients that go into your bag, and you're gonna be pulling them out one at a time and putting them down into your cauldron. They are gonna have different values. So if you pull out a 2, you get to put 2 spaces forward in your cauldron, and you're basically trying to go as far out into your cauldron as you possibly can. You're basically trying to have the most stuff out there. And so at the end of every round, basically, you're gonna get to buy more of these chips, and the chips do all different stuff. There's like these bird skulls, there's like these mandrakes, and the mandrakes do something that when you pull them out, you get to do this. The bird skull, when you pull it out and put in your cauldron, you get to do this. And so they all kind of like stack on top of each other. But what's brilliant about this game does it like Cubitos does it. There's a couple of these games that basically have one kind of component, like there's like the chip with the bird skulls on it, but then there's like 4 different powers that bird skull can have, and every game you just kind of randomize, okay, for this one we're gonna have the bird skull have this power. And so it creates so much variety in the game without having to give you a ton of extra components, because these same components work for every single game, you just change out what they do. And Quacks of Quedlinburg isn't the first game to do that, but I feel like really kind of like put that on the map, like, hey, this is something you can do, and also keeps the component costs down, which is also really, really nice. But it's just great. You build these crazy synergies. It's just push your luck, because if you draw out too many of these white chips, your cauldron will explode. It's just a good time. Some of the expansions are really, really fun and add some cool stuff. The geek up bits are like super necessary because they're just nice and acrylic and click-clacky. They're great. I love Quacks of Quedlinburg. It's just push your luck fun. It goes over great with pretty much everyone. It's awesome.
All right, next up is Quadropolis. This is a city building tile laying game with an interesting kind of bid system to collect tiles to draft, I guess, to place into your city. So there are going to be different tiles that have different things that you're going to see in your city. You're going to have your housing, you're going to kind of have your harbor, your industry, your amenities, and things like that. And you're going to have these little architect tiles, and you have a grid of tiles in the kind of center of the board that everyone is going to be using to collect things to put into their city. You're gonna have architects that are gonna have different numbers 1 through 4, at least in the basic game. And when you go to place them around the grid, if I put it like on the bottom edge of the grid and had a 2, I'm gonna count 1, 2 tiles in, and that's the tile that I collect. That second tile from the bottom in the column that I place my little arrow. So there's a really interesting system of like, how do I actually get to these tiles that I need, first of all, to collect them, and then the number that I use, say it was that 2, is gonna pertain to rows and columns in my city board, and it has to go into a row or column that shows a 2. So it's also dictating where you're going to place this item in your city, and many things are going to want to be adjacent to certain things, not adjacent to others. And with your housing, you want to stack them up as much as you can to have kind of dense population. So there's these fun things to consider. It's like, how do I get the tiles I need? How does the drafting of that tile affect where I can place it, and is that useful for me or not? So it creates a lot of really interesting decisions. Quadropolis came into our life kind of early on in our board gaming discovery of the hobby, and it's been satisfying and interesting and compelling for years and years and years now without fail. So that's something that just really shows when a game has staying power. The way you draft those tiles and how it affects where you can place those tiles in your city is always going to be interesting.
And our number 1 is The Quest for El Dorado, the Reiner Knizia. I'm gonna say classic at this point. It's really, really good. This is a great intro to deck building and racing, because you are racing towards El Dorado, trying to get to the City of Gold before anyone else. You are gonna build a map of these really big, like hexagonal tiles, which are gonna have like jungle on them, water on them, and then markets. And you're basically trying to get your explorer to El Dorado before anyone else. And you do that through deck building. You have these cards on your turn. You're going to play out these cards, whatever cards you want from your hand, and they're going to allow you to move forward. So if you put down a machete card, that allows you to move onto and through a jungle space. If you put a paddle down. That allows you to move through a water space, and then money allows you to move through market spaces. Money is also how you get new cards because it's a deck building game. So you can get these new cards, and it'll be like this card has 3 machetes on it, which means you can move through up to 3 spaces of machetes, but the jungle can get dense. And that's one thing I really like about this game is the way the board sets up. It can set up in a whole bunch of different ways. You can set it up however you want. There are some suggested ones in the book, of course. But a lot of times the shortest route to get to El Dorado is going to be the densest. It's going to have the densest rivers, the densest forests, the densest markets. And to move onto a spot in the jungle that has 3 machetes, you have to have a 3 machete card. You cannot turn in 3 1 machete cards. You have to have a 3. But that 3 machete card could allow you to move through 3 1 machete spaces. But to get through those really dense spots, you have to have a card that can move you on there by itself. And so getting through these shortcut spots are tough because it's a deck building game. So you're like, okay, I know that I have 2 3 machete cards in here, but where are they? Am I gonna get stuck here just waiting? And it's really, really fun to kind of push your luck a little bit and do that kind of min-maxing. Is this shorter way gonna be worth it? Or should I just go around where it's gonna be easy to move, but it's gonna maybe take me a little bit longer? It's really, really good. This game also, seemingly no matter when you play it, always ends up being really, really close. Like it's always like a photo finish to the very, very end. I just really, really love it. There's some great expansions. There's been a couple different versions. There's a newer version that has like, not Reiner Knizia art. As far as I know, Reiner Knizia, he's good at everything. Who knows if he does art. It has vintage do trait art. It's really, really pretty, but nonetheless, this one is so, so good. Great racing, great deck building. It's awesome.
So those are 10 games that we really enjoyed that all start with the letter Q, but of course there are many more out there. Yeah. So do us a favor, if you've been doing this along throughout the whole process, we appreciate it, but give us 10 games or a couple games of your favorites that start with the letter Q. We want to know which ones we missed.
Yeah, there's a whole bunch of them out there. Yeah, more than you think. It's great. Nonetheless, that is it. We'll be back next time with letter R. That should be a good one as well.
It's going to be hard to bear down.
And we hope you all have a great day, and we'll see you later.